Hello and welcome to another live broadcast. This is your online director, Charles Hunegart, streaming to you live from downtown Nevada City, California. And today we're going to be going over just some of the basics about AI. And some people may have gotten into it. I know there's a lot of videos out there, but we're basically just going to be creating a small skeletal mesh and importing that into the engine and creating the blueprints around that to make it be active and dynamic in the world. And so if you have any questions, please post them in the chat pod and we can get those taken care of. So right now I'm in Maya and I'm just going to create our little skeletal mesh. I'll just I'm just going to create a basic polygonal mesh here, and it can be I'll do a sphere, and maybe make that 40 and scale it up a little bit, maybe 40. That's a little bit better. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to create like a little kind of, and then that will be our mesh, and then I'm not going to animate it. I will rig it with one bone, just so that it comes in as a skeletal mesh and not a static mesh. You can do a static mesh component for AI, but it's just easier to get in the habit of doing a skeletal mesh for it. So I will switch to the face mode, and I'm going to chop off the bottom half here, switch to edge mode, and I'm going to grab that bottom edge and extrude that. I think this one's extrude. Yes, that one is extrude. And this is essentially the little, I don't know what you'd call that. You can see, one thing that extrusion does is it makes it look all faceted around. Select this modeling and go to, where is it? I know it's somewhere around here. I know there's edge normals somewhere. There we go. So under mesh display, there's harden edge and soften edge. So if I switch to harden edge, you can see hard. And I'll make sure they're softened. Let me freeze transforms, delete history, and then I'll soften the edges. So, and then delete history to the bottom. And I'm going to rename the mesh here. I will name it AI mesh. Pretty generic. The easiest way to rig it is just to start plopping down bones. Since we only really want to give this thing one bone, when this isn't a rigging tutorial, I'm going to go up to the rigging menu, pull down, and also there's the rigging shelf here, and there's the joint tool here. So we'll use the joint tool, and I'm just tap it by holding the X key, and there's my joint. It's really tiny. And I'm just going to call this AI root, and then I'm going to skin this. I like it to be a little bit bigger just in Maya so I can see it. And I believe you go to the attribute editor and go into display. Where is it? I know there's a way to get it to show up a little bit bigger, but anyway, we know that there's just one in here, and if you added a bone to it, it of course scale up the joint depending on how long the bones are that are connected to it. But we don't really need to do that. So I'm going to select. I have my my joint selected down there. I'm going to select the mesh, and then I'm going to go under. Make sure I'm in the rigging pull down menu here. Go to skin, and I'm going to go to bind skin. And that's pretty much it. So now I have my joint selected, and I have my skin selected. Oh, Patrick was saying that under display, animation, joint size. Oh, I can set that up. Oh, there we go. Okay, yeah, that's much better. Great. All right, cool. And so, yeah, I have the joint selected and I have the mesh selected, and then I'm going to export that. So I will go to File, Export Selection. I'm going to navigate to my project. So if I go to my computer, users, me, documents, Unreal projects, basics, content, third person BP, there's blueprints. We'll put it under there. We'll create a new folder under here, and we'll call this, what should we call this guy? How about AI guy? And inside there, we'll export it. We want to make sure smoothing groups, tangents, and binormals and triangulate are on, and make sure the animation flag is checked. And we will name this AI guy. Make sure we have the FBX export set, and then click Export Selection. And so now if we go to our Unreal project, see that I'm just being in here, it's just prompted. It's like, hey, a new thing popped up. What do you want to do? So we're going to go ahead and import that. And it should have put this in AI guy. So here we have, oh, it brought in a material too. I usually don't have it automatically create a material, but that's fine. So here's our AI guy skeletal mesh asset. And that's what it looks like, and it came in pretty good. And I'm gonna color it just because I like it to be colored. I will close out of this, go into the Lambert here, and actually I'm gonna rename it because Lambert is so generic. We will name it AI guy underscore Matt. And then I'm going to, I'll give it a color here of, I kind of like it to be a little cute thing. And yeah, it's kind of a cool color. And of course I could give it a metallic and roughness as well. Maybe I'll do that just for fun. So I'll create a couple constants here, plug one into metallic and one into roughness, and we could have it be completely smooth and plastic looking. That looks actually pretty cool. So I'm going to do 0.15 on that, so it's not super glossy. Yeah, it looks pretty good. All right, so I will save that, wait for my computer to catch up, and close out of that. And now we have our little AI guy thing there. So that's a mesh, that's a material. That was how to, quickly rig it up, and you can do all sorts of character modeling tutorials and whatnot. We can probably save our scene. So I'll just save this guy in here. I'll say AI guy, my ASCII file, save it, continue, close. Alright, so that way our source is saved, just in case we want to come back to it, but I don't think we do because we have everything we need. Maya takes a while to close, which is kind of weird. So let's save our skeletons, save everything here. I'm just going to save all. There we go. Alright, so we have our AI guy skeletal mesh, we have our material, we have a physics asset which automatically comes in. If you want to see what that is, basically you can set all sorts of physics collision nodes on your mesh, and this is kind of more applicable for a mesh that is has multiple joints on it. This isn't going to really do anything for us right now. But if you ever wanted to go limp or ragdoll or something like that, or make certain bones physics driven instead of animation driven, you can set that up in the physics asset. And then the skeleton is actually just the skeleton itself. And so here you can create sockets and all sorts of things to like attach weapons to and whatnot. But we're not going to be using that as much. It's basically just some leftover stuff that come in with that skeletal mesh. The skeletal mesh is the thing that we want. The next step is to create a pawn. So basically every character in a game, and this is kind of the way Unreal works, it's the way Unreal has worked for a while, is you have two things driving a character in the game. One of those is the pawn, and that's a type of class, and it has a source that's under the hood in C++. The pawn is the physical representation of the character in the world. It plays animations. It can take damage. It can be seen. It can do stuff, but it's basically just the physical representation, and everything that has kind of like a physical effect on the character gets processed through that pawn class. The other blueprint, the other class, is the controller. So the controller is the brains behind the character or the pawn, and in Unreal 4, they have the concept of the character, and the character is basically a pawn, but they know it's going to be a character type pawn. It's not going to be a pawn. Could basically be a rock or something like that, or some sort of like ethereal wisp that flies around and follows you or something. But a character is something that walks or can swim or can climb or that kind of thing. So it's basically a pawn. But has some kind of presets attached to it. So everything in an Unreal game that is a character has those two components. They have the pawn class, or the character class that's controlling it, and then they have the controller, which is the brains behind it. Even the player, and even if you don't have one defined, there are, especially for the player, there's the default player controller. There is a default AI controller, but you still need to specify it. So what we're going to do now is get into setting up this AI guy's pawn and his controller, and that's pretty easy to set up. So we'll just right click here and we'll go to blueprint class, and instead of actor or pawn or we're going to set this guy up as a character. So here you can even see the default. It says a character is a type of pawn that includes the ability to walk around. Sounds pretty good. We don't necessarily want to do that from scratch if there's already kind of a preset for us here. So we're going to set character, and we're going to call this, I'm just going to call it AI guy underscore pawn. And then I'm going to create another one here, blueprint class. And here you'll see we have an actor, we have player controller, we have game mode, actor component, scene component. These aren't presets that we want. The thing that we want to look for is going to be under all classes, and we want to go under actor, and hang on a second. And it's going to be under controller, and you can see here there's AI controller and player controller, and we are going to select AI controller. That's going to be our base class for the AI guy controller. So we'll select that, and we'll just call this AI guy controller. And so with the AI guy pawn, let's set these both up real quick. The AI guy pawn, we'll go in here, and with the mesh, we want to select the skeletal mesh that we've created, the AI guy mesh. And you can see here that our collision and our pivot point, our root. So with Unreal, the root tends to be at the pelvis, and you have the legs and the spine kind of coming off of that. I just put the root at the bottom instead of in the middle, but we can offset that. So with here, I mean, basically we can just do that, drag that down so it's kind of in the middle of that collision capsule, and then we can adjust this capsule component to match more closely to what this guy looks like. So there, and I probably want to scale that down so it's a little bit better there. And I'm going to go into wireframe just so I can see this a little bit better. Select the mesh. Make sure the mesh is kind of lining up pretty well with that collision. All right, there it is. All right, so that's all good. And this blue arrow is the direction. We don't have a face on this guy, but if we did, that's where his face would be. He would be looking in the positive direction here, and the positive direction of the character, you always want to be in the positive X direction. So in Maya, when you're animate, you can always change. You can rotate it around or whatever, but it's better to start off with source that's going to be non-problematic. In Maya, you want your character facing front in the positive X direction, and then when you pop it into Unreal, it'll be good. Let's compile that and save it, and then in the AI guy pawn component, you can set some defaults for it. So here we have the AI controller class, and like I said, everything has a default, and AI controller is the default, but and essentially we'd plop that into the world and nothing would happen because AI controller doesn't actually do anything. It just sits there because unless you override AI controller or make AI controller class in C++, do a bunch of different stuff, or what you can do is in here you can set a custom AI controller. So we've created AI guy controller, which is inheriting AI controller. So this is a child of that, and then we can do a bunch of custom stuff in here, and it'll start affecting our AI guy. So whenever this AI guy pawn is placed in the world, it's going to look for that controller, which are the brains. And with AI, the brains, that's the intelligence part of the artificial intelligence. And then so we'll be calling AI guy controller. Let me save everything. We want to start doing controller stuff in the controller. So I'll just show you really quick what will happen if we put AI guy pawn down in the ground here. It's not going to do anything. Looks kind of like a trash can. It's just going to sit there because there's nothing telling it to do anything yet. So the next step is we need to tell it to do stuff. And the way that you tell an AI to do stuff, there's a lot of script commands that you can do in Blueprint. However, you need something that's kind of governing that process, and in Unreal that is called a behavior tree. So when we right click, we will go to artificial intelligence, and there are two things here. One is a behavior tree and one is a blackboard. So first, I'm going to create both of these, and then I'll go into detail about what they are and how they work. So behavior tree, I'm going to call this AI guy underscore BT, short for behavior tree. And I'm going to do the same thing with that blackboard. AI guy underscore BB for blackboard. The blackboard is essentially a place, a node where you can store variables that can be accessed through a lot of different scripts. And so just think of it, it's a container that holds variables. That's all it is. Let me save that. The behavior tree is essentially a structure that decides AI behavior based on certain conditions. And the behaviors that the AI does are essentially blueprint scripts. The conditions that it's checking to decide which behaviors to do are also essentially blueprint scripts. The behavior tree is just a nice way to organize it and plan it out and execute it. And you might have heard me talk before about the event tick in Blueprint or in Unreal. Don't ever use Blueprint. Don't ever use that event tick. And essentially what's going to be happening with this behavior tree is it's going to be doing the ticking for you. And it's going to you want that to tick for you because that's ticking under the hood in C++. And that's a much more efficient use of the tick process. So in any of your scripts, just really try to stay away from tick. In fact, I think of it as kind of like a Sudoku puzzle about like how to achieve something by avoiding using tick. Sometimes you need to use it to prototype something, but by and large, you should figure out a way to do it without tick. In most cases, you can do that. So let me save my behavior tree. So we've declared these two nodes here, and we're going to set those up to be used by our the brains of our AI. So inside the AI guy controller, we'll go to the event graph, and we'll kill that event tick because we don't need it. But we will use the event begin play, and you can always find event begin play under event, add event, and it's there. Or you can just search for begin, and it'll pop up in there. Sometimes it's hard to know what to look for in that list, but here it is, event begin play. And so what we're going to do is I'm going to look for run behavior tree. Actually, I'm going to, before I do that, I'm going to do Blackboard. Use Blackboard. So essentially what's going to happen is in the Blackboard, in the event begin play, we are going to use a Blackboard. I'm going to select the Blackboard asset, which is the AI guy BB node that we just created. And and then we're going to run the behavior tree. We will select the AI guy underscore BT, and that is essentially it. So now we are running. The first thing that we'll do is we will we're going to go in and create some stuff in the behavior tree. So now if we hit play, nothing happens. That's to be expected because we haven't told it to do anything yet. So under AI guy BT, we have our root. Every behavior tree starts with a root, and there are some things under here. The first one is we're going to place a couple new nodes. We have what are called composites. So composites are so simple parallel, I wouldn't use that one. I haven't used it. I don't really see the need to use it. We're going to select a selector, and we're going to do a sequence. So when you so right off the root, you have to have a select. It's either going to go to one or another. The root can't go to multiple things because the root doesn't decide anything. It's just when the behavior tree spawns, the process is going to come into the root, and then it's going to go right on to the next thing. So when we look at selector, and sequence makes sense, but selector doesn't in the way that it was named. Selector nodes, so we'll read this. Selector nodes execute their children from left to right and will stop executing its children when one of their children succeeds. If a selector's child succeeds, then the selector succeeds. If all of the selector's children fail, then the selector fails. Essentially, you can have some nodes here. We can go to task right now, and we can do wait, and we'll do another wait. And actually, let's. I'm going to delete these guys. So the first thing that you want to do off of the root is put in a selector. It allows you to do some different things based on some conditions that we have not yet set. And then usually what I do is I will do, oops, here I'll do another composite here. I'll do a selector, and then I'll have a sequence here. So there's some default tasks that you can have. I like using the wait because then you can kind of see how things are going. So essentially, you can have the selectors going to pick different things based on conditions. We don't necessarily need to have condition. I'm trying to think of the best way to describe this without being confusing. Let's do sequence first. So sequence, the way that it works is the nodes execute their children from left to right and will stop executing their children when one of their children fails. If a child fails, then the sequence fails. If all of the sequence children succeed, then the sequence succeeds. So what's going to happen is if it can't execute something, it'll go back up to the selector. If it can execute something and all of the things underneath it get executed, when it finishes, it will go back up to the selector, and then the selector can decide what to do. So right now, let's just do a sequence and walk through this process. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to wait. And to debug a behavior tree, it's pretty easy. You can just drag it over here to the side. And this is also a way that we can see that all of the stuff that we hooked up in the controller and the pawn is working. So if we hit play, you can see that our AI appears to not be doing anything, but it's actually doing something really important. It's waiting, which is the thing over on the bottom right. We told it to wait, so it's going to wait now. So let's leave that for a second, and we're going to create something else. We've done the AI guy. We're going to create a little node that that is essentially like a place for this AI to go to. You can set AI to randomly wander around by having a script that tells him to wander, and that's all fine and dandy. But it also makes him kind of not look that great. So one thing that I think is a really good thing to do, and it's probably a little bit easier to implement too than a straight up wander script, is to have him go to specific points and visit them. And so we need to create those points. So what we'll do, I'm going to create a new folder here, and I'm going to call this point of interest, or POI. And then, let me go into Photoshop really quick. Photoshop. All right, so I am going to create a new file. Sure, that all looks good. And I don't know why I like this color so much. Just pick a different color. How about green? All right. And where's my bucket? There's my bucket. And so let me get some text here on screen. Oh, I know what I'll do. There's my text tool. Let me switch to black. And oh, that's really, might want to make this a wee bit smaller. Instead of 400 point, how about 350? Perfect. Awesome. So I have my POI text and I have a background, and I want to mask this off because I want it to be basically going to be creating a sprite. So let me switch to my tool here, my little circle tool. Hold down shift so I can make an actual circle. And that looks all right. Let me nudge. And I'll grow by 1 pixel. Yeah, I think that's hitting the edge. All right, so if I go into channels here, I'm going to create an alpha mask. So then that way it'll be a circle. And then I'm going to save this. Oh, let me go back over here. Let me merge these guys. And file, save as. Oh, you guys have already seen that I've done that. Yep. I like to practice these things before I do them. So I'm going to go into third person blueprint under blueprint. Yeah, oh, it doesn't have. So when you create a folder in Unreal, it doesn't actually create the folder until you put something in it. So under third person BP, under blueprints, that is where we're going to put this. So third person under blueprints, and it's just a folder called POI. So let's just be consistent with that there. And we want to save it as a targa, and I'm just going to call it POI text. Save. It's going to ask me to save it as a 32-bit, and that is because there's that alpha mask in there. So make sure it's 32-bit, not 24. And I think that's all I need. I'll keep Photoshop open just in case. All right, so that's essentially pretty much all I need to do. Under here, I'm going to create a blueprint class, and it's going to be an actor. And I'm going to call it POI underscore BP for blueprint. And I'm going to create a billboard sprite thing. There it is, billboard. And I'll just call it sprite. And I'm going to pick the sprite to use, which is that POI text. And you can see it there. So it's that's great. And I'm going to make the sprite the default scene root to get rid of that little ball there. We don't really need that. And then I'm going to add another component here. I'm going to call it or use the arrow, wherever that is. There it is. And let me switch off of this here. We'll scale this up a little bit. Whoa. How about 3 times? There we go. All right, so I'm going to compile it. I'm going to save it. Essentially, that's all this actor does. Is it's just oops. Let me set the rotation back. I messed it up. Or no, I didn't. Everything's fine. Look over here. The rotation's fine. So as long as the rotation's fine. Okay. It's just a little confusing because the POI sprite looks like you're rotating the arrow around, but since it's a sprite, it's always facing the camera. So let's save that. And so when we drag this into the scene, whoa, holy Hannah, that's big. Let me go into the sprite and let's see what this does here. I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. That's better. All right, so I have my point of interest. And here's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to just basically put it in the scene, and I have a position and I have a rotation on it. And I'll put it a little bit lower so we know the AI guy can get to where it's going. And I'll put a few of these in the scene here. So this way he's gonna wander around, but he's like, he might be looking at some interesting stuff. Like that wall or this wall. And I think this is a way to get like a behavior that feels like he's going to be wandering around, but then there's also like some points of interest that you can get him to focus, or her, however you want to genderify your AI. So yeah, he might come over here and look at this thing. Maybe he'll go over here and look at this thing. Alright, I think you guys get the idea. Alright, so there's my points of interest that this AI is going to be potentially investigating because he's a curious little fellow. And that's pretty much all we need to do for the POI. So if we go back into blueprints, we are going to give it a behavior to go to these POIs and to look at them. So let's save our map and let's make sure all of our assets are saved. And we'll go back into our AI guy, and in the AI guy _BT, what we need to do is we need to create a new task for this guy. So the task that we're going to be creating is basically going to be that kind of wandering thing. So we'll click new task, and we're gonna, and it creates a new blueprint. You can see the BT task _blueprint base _new, which is a very generic name that's not helpful at all. The best thing to do when that's created is just to close out of it, close out of your behavior tree, and you can see that it creates that new node over here, the BT task blueprint base _new. And what we want to do is we want to rename that, and I'm just going to call this BT task _wander. So that gives it a little bit better of a name. Inside the behavior tree, what we can do is we can add that in here. So if I pull this down, I can click tasks, and we have all of the generic tasks that we had before where we grabbed weight from, but now we also have this BT task wander, which is that script that we have. And we can also rename it to something. We can do this too. We can say wander. So it makes a little bit more sense when you're looking at this, like, oh, that's the wander task, rather than just seeing that generic name there. And then under here where it says BT task _wander, that actually points to the script. You can also just double click that and it'll open it up. We don't have anything in the event graph right now, so it's just not opening the event graph. So let's save our behavior tree, and then we can open it. We can also open it from here too. So open the full blueprint editor in here. There's the way that you should tap into these. You can just start coding stuff or scripting stuff right in the event graph, but the best way to do it is through the override feature in the functions. So you're basically going to be overriding some underlying C++ code. So if you go to override, you can click on override, or you can click on receive execute AI. And essentially these are the same things, but this is an AI. So we're going to use receive execute AI. And what you get with that is you get the owner controller, which in this case is our AI guy controller, and the controlled pawn, which is the AI guy pawn. So the first thing that we want to do is we want to, pick one of those things at random to go to. And we can do this in a couple different. We could do this a couple different ways. We can store things in the blackboard, which it's harder to store things like arrays. Like for instance, in here, in the level, we have all these points of interest. But these points of interest, if we wanted to have all of them, we'd either need to add them all individually, or we need to store them in an array. And the best way to do this is going to be in an array, and we can store that variable on the AI guy controller, and we can get that later. So what we can do, so in the AI guy controller, we'll do that in here, and we're going to create a variable. And we're just going to call this POIs, and we will change the variable type here to POI, and you can see that POI BP here, and we want a reference to it, but we also want to make it an array. So you can see over here it's a singular thing, but if we click that button, it changes it to an array. So now we can store multiple instances of the POI in that array. And the way to do that is after we run the behavior tree, we're going to find all of our points of interest in the level, and we're going to store them in this array. So I think it's find or get all actors of class. So basically, it's going to look through all of the actors in the scene, and it's going to get the ones that are specific to what we're looking for. And so we can select all of the actors that can possibly be created. And in this case, we're going to be searching for that POI underscore BP. So it's going to look for all of those points of interest blueprint actors, and it's going to put them into this array. So we can just drag that array right there, and boom, it's going to set that. And that's all we need right now. So we will save it and close out of the controller and go back into the BT task wander. Under the owner controller, that's essentially that AI guy controller. So, but we need to, it's just getting the generic controller of this AI. It doesn't know what kind it is yet. So basically we need to cast it so that we can find the type of controller, which is our AI guy controller. So I'm going to type cast, and you can see where it says cast to AI guy controller. So we will do that first, and then we can get the AI guy controller and get the POIs from there. So we can get POIs. And we just want a random point of interest to go to. You could make this specific. You could make them do it in order. You could do it however you wanted. If you wanted to do it in order, you would probably want to create a point of interest with like a variable that sets what priority it is, so it can go from priority 1, 2, 3, 4, so on and so forth, if you want it to run a specific path of points of interest or waypoints or whatever. In this case, we just want them to go randomly to 1. So we are going to get and that will return a point of interest. We want it to be a random int. We don't know how long this is going to be. If I add more, we don't know if it's going to be, 3 points of interest or 10 points of interest. So we need to also get the length of this guy. I might even add points of interest dynamically through a script. I might spawn them in. Or, when you get from one point of the level to another point of the level, I might destroy the ones where you came from and create new ones somewhere else. So this is going to be essentially dynamic. So that is, we're going to be looking for a range. So random integer in range. So the minimum is going to be 0. So we will just set that. And the maximum will be the length minus 1, I believe. So let's do that. Minus 1. So it's going to get that. And then the next thing that we want to do is so now we can get a random POI to go to, but now we need to go to it. And we need to tell the controlled pawn to go there. Whoopsie. So if you type in move in this context-sensitive toolbar, you'll see the AI move to here. I don't know why that picked that, but we'll do that. And let me do There we go. I don't know why it did the world context object. That's kind of weird. Anyway, so we have our AI move to. This is the pawn that's going to be moving there. So the controller is doing this task that's going to tell the pawn to move to the destination. So the destination, we are going to get the location, get actor location, and that's going to be it. So before we do that, we should set up a trace. Actually, no, we don't need to set up a trace. We'll just go there. Since we know all of our points of interest are in areas where you can navigate to, we don't necessarily need to run a trace to get there. So let's set up our, so after we cast to the AI guy controller, we will move to a random point of interest. We can also just do that too. You don't necessarily need to do the location as the destination. On success, when we get there, we want to finish execute, and we want to finish execute with a success. If we fail to get there, we want to finish execute without a success. And the reason that we have these in here is because they are going to tell the blueprint, like, hey, this was successful or this wasn't. This script is going to run until one of these two outcomes happens. And so we want to, if you didn't have a finish execute on the fail, if the AI failed to get to the thing, it would just sit in this wander task indefinitely and never execute and go to the wait and try to find another one. So these are important things. So now let's see what happens. So let's have our behavior tree up, and then let's play test this, and we'll see what our AI does. So it's going to wait, and now it's going to wander, and it's not working. And you know why? Because I forgot a very simple thing, which is to put in a navigation volume. So right now, there's no, with these default scenes, there's no way that this AI, it knows about the points, and it knows it wants to get to them, but it doesn't know anything about finding a path to them. And pathfinding is very important for AI, because if they can't find a path to wherever they want to go, then they can't get there. So we need to have them find a path. And the way to set that up is over here in the volume section. You can go to the nav mesh bounds volume and just drag that into your scene. Go to your scale tool and scale that up. And if you hit P on your keyboard right now, it's going to show you the areas in which the AI can travel. So you can see that when we didn't have that there was no green area. Green is good. And so we want him to be able to go over all of this area. And we can make it a little taller too if we want. So it can go upstairs and stuff if we wanted to. All right, so let's save that. I'm going to hit P on my keyboard again because I don't want to see the green soup. And I will, let me get my behavior tree up so I can watch this. So we knew the behavior tree worked. We saw it go into that wander state, but nothing happened. So now with wander, whoa, look at that. Oh, it's going. It went. And it's waiting again. And it's going to wander over to another one. Oh, and it found the shortest path. So now it's going over there. So it's doing exactly what we're telling it to do. And it's stuck. Oh, there it goes. So for some reason it got stuck in there a few times, and I'm not sure why, but eventually it got itself unstuck because of that fail condition. It's like, hey, I can't get to where I'm going, so I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna exit out, and I'm gonna wait and look for another one. And so it's moving fast. Our script's working. We can slow this guy down a little bit if we go to AI guy pawn in the defaults somewhere. So under character movement, there's a few things that we have in character movement walking. So you can set its acceleration. And you can also change its walk speed. Its walk speed is 600 right now. If we made that like 200, this thing is going to walk a lot slower and kind of look more a little bit wandery. This guy looks kind of like he's rushing to get to where he needs to go. So that's setting up some AI pretty basically. And the next thing that we want to do is, I think we'll probably wrap it up there because we can get more in depth with this guy, but I think we should reserve that for another broadcast, perhaps tomorrow or Friday or something like that. If there are any questions, I will take them now. All right, and so no one has any questions, so I hope you guys enjoyed this, and we will pick this guy up next time. We will have him rotate to face where he's going, wait for a second, and then go there, and then rotate to face the arrows, so you can actually get it to look at the thing that you're trying to get it to look at. And not just facing a random. This guy, you can't really see it because he doesn't have a face, but we'll put a face on his texture, and so we can see which direction he's facing. And then we'll get him to react to the player as well. Oh wait, a question is coming in. Oh, how do you script the AI to not walk on the stairs? That's an interesting question. So right now he's plotting this path here. He's kind of going up over the stairs. So you could put a blocker in here. And let me see if there are nav mesh blocking volumes. So I think if we put in I think we can do a blocking volume here. To have him go around the stairs. And let me see if collision presets invisible wall. And no, I don't think there's a way to do that with the blocking volume. So essentially what we'd need to do is we'd need to take this nav mesh volume and edit it and basically just kind of do something like this. So here we're trying to create a little space for that that AI to go around the stairs. So now if we were to save it and play it, you can see if it's gonna avoid going over the stairs. Or it should anyway. Now we have to wait for that point to randomly come up, which could be quick and could take forever. Come on, dude. Go over here. Go by the stairs. You know you want to. Okay, I think we're going by this. Nope. Not yet. Come on. Come this way. You know you want to. Of course, now that we want him to go over there, he doesn't want to. Yep. Okay, go over and look at the wall again. Oh my lord, really? Come on, dude. This is the problem with random. Uh, a programmer would say this is entirely random. A designer would say that no, it's not quite random. He didn't go to that. Here he goes. Here he goes. See how he's going around those steps there because we missed that volume. So that would be the way to fix that. Just through those volume thingies. All right. Any other questions? Yeah, like this guy, I don't know how to pronounce your name. Yeah, you could delete extra POIs to get him to go to where you want. You could also create like a priority system and give certain POIs weight so that they could go to, so that they might hit that point more frequently. All right. Thank you guys very much, and I will keep looking for the live events, and I will send out another link for when we'll pick this back up to do some of the directional turning. We'll put a little face on this guy, have him actually face these points, and kind of look like he's walking around a little bit more intelligently, and then we will have him react to the player as well. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday. Thanks.